Thank you for everyone for coming today. I'd like to start off with a land acknowledgement. Today we meet on the treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, the Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee people. I'd like to welcome my guests, Robert, an 11-year-old climate advocate, Grace Kuang, a medical student at U of T, and Mary Blake Rose, the Deputy Project Manager for Citizen Climate Lobby Canada. As well as folks from Citizen Climate Lobby Canada, For Our Kids Toronto, Cape Ontario, Seniors for Climate Action Now Toronto, and Toronto East End residents for renewable energy. In Doug Ford's Ontario, the grid is getting dirtier. His continued investment in fossil gas plants is putting our health, our economy, and our future at risk. We're here today to call on the government to get off the gas. Make a switch to cleaner, cheaper, and renewable electricity sources. And now I'd like to invite Mary Blake Rose to say a few words.
Catherine, do you and Nico want to join me? We have just one little friend who's going to join us because Mother's Day is this Sunday, so happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. My name's Mary Blake, and I've been involved with Citizens Climate Lobby Canada since 2015. I'm at the stage of life where I get invited to a lot of baby showers, and I think that's just wonderful. I love watching my friends, cousins, and siblings become parents. But those new babies, like Nico here, they don't stay little like this forever. A new baby is a whole person with a whole future ahead of them. And that's why we're here today, in the week leading up to Mother's Day, because the government is making decisions that put our children's future in danger. Specifically, the government wants to build new fossil gas plants. This doesn't make sense. Fossil gas is composed mostly of methane, an extremely potent greenhouse gas, so it accelerates climate change. It also threatens our health, and Grace will talk more about that. And it doesn't even make financial sense, because new infrastructure for renewable energy would be cheaper. This Mother's Day, we're asking the government to start phasing out fossil gas to protect our money, our health, and our future. Thank you.
First year anatomy lab, I'm staring down at a pair of black tarry lungs. I ask my TA, was this guy a lifelong smoker? No, he says. He just lived in a really polluted neighborhood in Toronto. My name is Grace. I'm a medical student from U of T, and I speak as a member of the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment, an organization that represents more than 1,000 doctors from across Canada, when I say that air pollution produced from the burning of fossil gas is a significant health problem. So let's say, as an example, that you live close to the Portland's gas plant. When that plant turns on, these horrible sounding compounds come out of it, the most dangerous being nitrogen dioxide. And where does that stuff go? It goes into your lungs, where it causes damage and can cause asthma. It then diffuses into your bloodstream, where reactions can cause strokes and heart attacks. And that toxic stuff can also mutate your cells, which we know is a risk factor for things like Alzheimer's and cancer. We need to stop fossil gas-fired electricity and instead expand electricity from renewable resources. And we need to do this for all of our health. Thank you.
The IPCC report came out in 2018 when I was 6, saying we had 12 years left to limit catastrophic climate change. We now only have 6 years left to prevent mass destruction, flooding, heat stress, water scarcity, and hunger. I know you don't want any of that for your kids. The hottest year in history, with all days over 1 degree Celsius warmer, has been followed by the warmest ever January, February, and March. This past year, over 18 million hectares burned in Ontario. That is larger than the country of Syria. We are not winning this war, and so many don't even know we're fighting one. Even RBC, the world's largest bank investor in fossil fuels, shows that the expansion of methane-fired electricity generation goes against Canada's climate commitments. It's a dinosaur that we don't have room for in our future. And it will lose its value and become a stranded asset. Wind and solar are now our cheapest and cleanest source of electricity. Wind power in the Great Lakes alone could meet all our electricity needs. Ontario needs to embrace the target set at COP28 and triple our wind and solar electricity by 2035. The IPCC says no new oil and gas development is possible if the world is to stay at 1.5 of warming, which is already horrible for the planet. Ontario needs to phase out polluting gas power and restart our renewable energy efforts. This will lower electricity bills for Ontario families, not prop up a dying polluting industry. I'm just a kid. I want the same chance to grow up happy and healthy as you have all had. I'm begging you all. There isn't anything more urgent than this issue. Please work together to stop the plans to expand fossil gas power for your kids. Please.
I just want to close by thanking our guests who are here today, calling on the Ford government to phase out dirty fossil gas plants in this province. The largest single source of air and climate pollution in the city of Toronto is a Portland's gas plant. We're seeing the province ramp up gas plants with a projection that will undermine most of the gains we made by phasing out coal-fired electricity. $1.8 trillion was invested in the green energy transition last year alone, half of that going into low-cost wind and solar. We have cheaper, cleaner alternatives where we can attract those investment dollars, create good green jobs, and reduce climate pollution. We need the Ford government to act now. We're happy to answer any questions.
So the government often makes the argument that we need the gas plants because we have a large energy deficit that's sort of looming over us, and they need the gas plants to make sure that we don't have brownouts or blackouts, something like that, while we are building up more renewable capacity. And I was wondering if any of your guests have a response to that line of arguing.
Well, I'll respond, then I'll ask the others if they want to respond. So first of all, the government is doing more than using gas plants as emergency backup. Data shows that they're actually starting to run gas plants 24/7. Like, that just totally contradicts what the government says the stated purpose for gas plants is. And I'll remind everyone, this is a government that canceled 750 renewable energy contracts, costing this province $250 million. It would be far cheaper. Both wind and solar are cheaper than fossil gas. So if the government is concerned about electricity capacity, the fastest, cheapest way to ramp up generating capacity is with wind and solar, and rather than ramping up dirty, expensive fossil gas plants.
Yeah, well, Mike said it pretty well. Also, we have an informational packet that I forgot to give to you. My apologies, but that has a lot more information, some details on some studies that have been done, and some encouraging evidence coming out of, for example, California. Basically, I think that the thing is that the data is already pretty clear. Renewables work quite well and can be built more affordably than natural gas. But we have to change our thinking a little bit. The idea that we have to keep going back to gas plants because they're familiar and they work in a way that that we know and we're used to, that's the thinking of last century, and we need the thinking of this century to solve the problems of right now and of the future. For example, we're used to the idea of energy always being produced in these very large, centralized, either nuclear plants or gas plants, and then distributed throughout the grid. But if we move more toward, for example, distributed energy generation, things like rooftop solar panels, or things like smaller wind farms, distributed energy is one way to really open the door for renewables. And also, unfortunately, currently it's very hard for any kind of small energy company or small energy installer. For example, solar installers face just a lot of barriers that don't need to be there, not technological barriers, but barriers having to do with red tape and just hurdles that they face that are created by the government. And so I think that we need policies that open the door for a different way of thinking about energy, and that opens the door for renewables.
Do any of you guys have an issue with the large-scale nuclear build-out that we're doing?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so the Ontario Greens have said that we accept the fact that Bruce and Darlington are going to be rebuilt. That's pretty much largely underway or completed. And so we know that nuclear energy is going to be part of Ontario's energy mix. We're opposed to rebuilding Pickering because of the 65 nuclear plants in North America. The 64th worst performing one is Pickering. So why would we throw money at a plant that has not performed well when we have cheaper, cleaner, and greener alternatives in wind, solar, and storage? There is a reason that over half of the $1.88 trillion being invested in the green energy transition went to wind and solar, because global investors are putting their money in the lowest cost solutions. So it is outrageous for the people of Ontario in terms of the damage it's doing to our economy, to electricity prices, and to a stable climate for our children, for the government to not be investing in low-cost, clean, renewable energy.
Mike, it sounds like we're in for another day of discussions about the CAFIA. It sounds like there might be some sort of solution being offered by the speaker this morning. I'm not sure. What do you want to see happen about this issue today?
You know what? All four party leaders have said they're opposed to the ban on the CAFIA. I stand by my opposition to the ban. The CAFIA is a piece of cultural clothing that had been worn by Arabs and Palestinians for centuries. And we're continuing to call for the lifting of this ban, and for all four party leaders to come together and talk about how we can reduce the tensions that this ban has created in communities across the province, including right here in the legislature.
Sorry, just back to energy in the Portlands quickly. I can't remember who mentioned it, but the province is talking about either bringing a new transmission line into the Portlands or doing some kind of generation expansion there. Does anyone have a preference as to whether it be a new transmission line or some kind of new generating station?
So we're opposed to increasing electricity generation in the Portlands. I think our medical student here talked about what toxic air pollution is doing to people's health. The single largest source of both air pollution and climate pollution in the city of Toronto is the Portland generating station. I mean, it would be far cheaper, cleaner, better for human health, as well as the stability of our climate, for the province to invest in filling all these roofs throughout the city of Toronto with solar panels, lifting the offshore moratorium on wind generation. As my friend here said, we can produce enough wind power in the Great Lakes to meet Ontario's electricity needs. We have cheaper, cleaner solutions, and we just need a government that's going to implement those solutions to the benefit of our human health, our economy, and our communities, and our climate. Anyone else? Okay, thanks, everyone. Appreciate you all being here. I just want to say how much I appreciate everyone being here today. We need to revitalize and re-energize the climate movement, and it's going to start with the kind of people power that you're seeing in the room here today. And I was really honored to be a part of a huge climate conversation in my riding in Guelph on Saturday, where hundreds of members of our community came together and talked about how critically important it is for this government to get off fossil gas and invest in cheaper, cleaner, renewable energy sources. So thank you all for being here today.